Is our host, Dr. Elijah, and this is his field. He has written a lot of papers with citations on IoT and so many other IT fields. So without much ado, I'll just hand over the podium to him. So Dr. Elijah, over to you. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much, Dr. Nunso. I really appreciate your time, and I also want to appreciate everyone who's been able to join this webinar. So this is our 6th webinar, and it's 40 minutes dot as usual. So today, I'd just like to share my screen just in a minute. All right, so I believe we can all see my screen. So today I'll be talking about ChatGPT for Python IoT application development. And the main objective for this talk today is to show you how you can use the ChatGPT assistant in developing your Python IoT project. To achieve this objective, I'll be focusing on a little bit discussion on the IoT ecosystem, just to give you an overview for some of us who are not very familiar with what the IoT is all about. Then I will talk about how to use the ChatGPT, just a brief introduction there. Then we'll look at a case study where we use the ChatGPT to help develop a simple IoT project to monitor the temperature humidity using the Raspberry Pi Pico W. So let's get started. All right, for the IoT ecosystem, so basically when you talk about IoT, just the ability for machines to communicate with one another without much of human intervention. And also, it consists of various processes. So the application itself, that is whatever IoT you are trying to develop. So it could be for smart building, it could be for smart security, smart water management, and all of these various applications. So that's the application itself. So first, you need to talk about data collection. So using your, you need to develop the IoT node, what they call node. Some people call it IoT device. So this device, in this case, we're using the Raspberry Pi Pico. It could be any IoT device, that a lot of them out there. So that is used for data collection. You need to make sure you develop the firmware that helps you to operate the IoT device. So the device has to be connected with sensors. To be whatever sensor you intend to use for your IoT application, the temperature humidity sensor, like our own example for today. So the next thing is from the IoT device, you also have the gateway. So data is collected from your sensors that is placed in your whatever environment you're measuring, sent to the gateway, and from the gateway, because there's what they call data transmission. So for the data transmission, you could use any of the wireless communication technologies like Sigfox, LoRa, NB-IoT, Wi-Fi, and so on and so forth. So there's usually a base station, which is your back end or backhaul rather. From the base station, data is forwarded to your IoT network server, and this is where Internet of Things comes in. Your ability to control your IoT device via the internet. So it gives you that opportunity to monitor or control from anywhere as long as you have access to the internet. Then the next aspect is your visualization and control, which is usually maybe either to monitor whatever parameters you want to monitor from your either smart or smart building. So that's where you have to develop your web application or your mobile application. So these are just the basic processes and what the IoT ecosystem entails. All right, so ChatGPT is very popular. I want to go into describing how it was developed or how it works. I'll leave that to us to go and explore. Basically, it's an artificial intelligence language model created by the OpenAI. Okay? It's based on the generative pre-trained transformer architecture, which uses deep learning techniques to generate human-like responses to natural language input. Okay, so a lot of people are using this for different things now. Okay, be a chatbot, or it could be to develop tutorial materials. It could be to answer basic questions and all of that. So in our own case, we want to see how we can use this ChatGPT to develop our Python IoT simple project. So the question, how do I use ChatGPT? For those of us who haven't used it before, it's very easy. You just go to this link. You can see on my screen here. Once you click on this link, it asks you to log in or sign up. It asks you to log in or sign up, okay? So once you, if you don't want to sign up, you can just log in with your Google account or your Microsoft account. Any of that works perfectly. So it just gives you access to their platform, which is on the internet. All right, so let's come to the main aspect of today's talk, which is developing the Python IoT project. So I've broken that into 4 main steps. So the first step is you need to install your Python IDE, that is Integrated Development Environment. So you need to have that ready. Okay, I'll show you some of the IDEs we have we can use. Then you need to have basic knowledge of Python programming. Okay, so I'll also show you how you can use ChatGPT to help you with your knowledge of Python programming. Then you need to know what project you want to do. You need to know what project you want to do. Okay, you need to know what project you want to do. Then, of course, you need to know the right questions to ask ChatGPT. All right, so let's go into that. All right, so for step 1, Python IDE. So there are a lot of Python IDEs you can use for your project, IoT project. So, well, I'm going to recommend the Anaconda. So the Anaconda, it's a good packet manager that can help you install several softwares. Okay, so once you install, it's free, especially when you go for the Anaconda free distribution. You can either download it or you can start using their online platform. They have an online platform now which you can use. So if you want to work offline, then I advise you to just download it. Once you download it, it's going to install a lot of packages for you. Then it's going to give you a good, human interface, a graphic user interface to also install several other softwares which might be of interest to you. So basically, I would recommend out of all the software, you can use any of the softwares there that are based on Python programming, but I would recommend Spider IDE. I've used this quite a lot to develop applications. It's quite easy to use. Or the VS Code. So if you want to do something very professional, then the VS Code is also good. So these softwares you can use to develop your apps, maybe your web apps or your mobile apps. You can also use it to develop the firmware. Okay, firmware meaning the embedded system codes, that is the Python code that runs on your microcontrollers or on your embedded system. That's what I refer to as firmware. Another software I will encourage you to install is the Python IDE, Tony IDE. Okay, so you can get this from the tony.org. Okay, so basically, what I use this IDE for is to program my Raspberry Pi Pico W. So I use it to program my Raspberry Pi Pico W. So again, it's very simple to use. There are a lot of tutorials online that can help you get started with it. So this particular software can be used to develop the firmware for your microcontroller. So you can either debug your firmware from the Tony IDE, or you can use to program your microcontroller. You can also use it to develop apps. Let's say you're just learning basic Python programming. It's also good for that. But if you're developing a big time application, then I recommend that you use any of these, the VS Code and Spider IDE. Then you can just use this mainly for your programming your microcontroller. Okay, so the next step, which is the basis of Python programming, right? So for you to be able to develop any IoT project with Python, so again, you need the basic knowledge of Python. So please, what I would, there are a lot of tutorials out there that can help you get started. But again, ChatGPT is very good at coming up with a structured learning material. So you can just ask it, for example, if you look at my screen, I set a detailed Python course outline with tutorials and Python code example for each section. So it depends on how you frame your question. So the ChatGPT is able to provide a well-structured tutorial. So it breaks that into sections, maybe introduction to Python. Then it shows basic codes. Then it provides simple explanations as well. So if you are not satisfied with any of the sections, you can ask it to provide more information. So the good thing about ChatGPT is it's interactive. So if you ask it a question and it gives you an answer, you're not satisfied, you can always ask, refine your answer or ask for more information, and it's going to provide for you as much as it can. Okay. So the next step is the IoT project itself. So first, you need to know what project you want to work on. You need to know what project you want to work on. In this case, it's an IoT project to monitor the humidity and temperature using the DHT11 sensor. So this is the DHT11 sensor I'm working with. Then using the Tony ID and MicroPython. So the temperature and humidity readings should be displayed on a web interface when connected to the same wireless local area network. So one thing I'd like to mention here is this. So when I talk about wireless local area network, so it simply means if you have your Wi-Fi, so if you are connected to that Wi-Fi, you should be able to access the readings from this sensor from the Raspberry Pi Pico W. So this is just the hardware part which I've set up. So I have my DHT11 sensor, which reads temperature and humidity values. Then I have my Raspberry Pi Pico W, which is mounted on my Maker Pi Pico board. So this Maker Pi Pico board is a development kit. So it saves you a lot of time trying to solder and all of that. You can just easily insert your Pico W, connect your sensors to it using jumper cables, and you are up and running. So it saves you a lot of time. Then this is what it should display. So when I enter the IP address of my Raspberry Pi Pico W, it should display these readings on my web browser. So again, it could be using my laptop or using my mobile phone, as long as I'm connected to the same Wi-Fi. All right, so let's see how that is done. So basically, you can post your questions to ChatGPT. So in this case, I posted a question to it, how to connect the DHT11 to Pico W GP14. So again, you need to be familiar with the Raspberry Pi Pico W pinout configuration. So in this case, I'm connecting to the GP14, that is the general purpose input output pin 14, which is located on pin 19 of the microcontroller board. Okay, so I have asked it how to connect. Let's say you don't know how to connect. So again, you can see ChatGPT says to connect the DHT sensor to the Raspberry Pi Pico W, you can use any of the GPIO pins available on the board. In this example, I will use GP14, that is pin 19, to connect to the DHT11 sensor. So again, you just need to go to the website and get the pin configuration for DHT11. You need to know which one is VCC, which one is the ground, and which one is the signal. Okay, so then it will now explain, it says connect the VCC pin to the DHT11, of the DHT11 to 3.3 volts of the Pico W. So all of that are labeled on the Pico W. Again, you can just refer to the data sheet of the Pico W. Connect the ground pin of the DHT11 to the ground pin of the Pico W, and connect the data pin of the DHT11 to the GP14 on the Pico W. So, which is very easy. That I've done, just like you saw on this particular image. So this is the sensor. So we have the signal pin, we have the ground pin, and we have the VCC. So the VCC I've connected to the 3.3 volts of my Raspberry Pi Pico. Then the ground pin, I've connected to this ground pin of the PicoW. Then the signal pin is what I've connected to this GP14, also pin 19 of the microcontroller board. All right, so now I'm going to show you, so later on, then I will show you using the ChatGPT how I asked this question. Again, it didn't give me the right answer at one go, no. It was a forth and back communication with ChatGPT. So when it gave me the first set of code, I refined my question. Then when there was an error, I posted the error in ChatGPT, it corrected the mistake, sent me the code. That didn't work. So I'm going to demonstrate that to you or show you what happened in the process of trying to get this to work. But before I do that, so I just, once the codes are working, then I just copy and paste in my tuning IDE. So I'm going to show you the tuning IDE here. So this is my tuning IDE. You can see my screen, okay? So I just copied the code and pasted them in my tuning IDE. Then I just programmed my hardware by clicking on this run button of the tuning IDE. So automatically it just saves the code to my Raspberry Pi PicoW and runs it. And when you run it, then it displayed the IP address, which is seen on my tuning IDE shell. So I just copy this IP address. Here's the IP address. Then I put it in my mobile phone because my mobile phone is connected to the same hotspot I'm using for my tuning IDE. Sorry, my PicoW. So I use that in my mobile phone, and I also use that in the web browser, which I'll show to you later. And it worked perfectly well. So let's look at the. All right, so here is my conversation with ChatGPT. So I'll just take you through the process. Again, it's not one time, you could be lucky if you are asking just very simple questions. It can easily give you the answer, but if you're asking for more convoluted questions, then of course you keep refining your questions and also your response to the. So let's look at it. So I'll probably just start from. Okay, so yeah, I want to make the temperature. I want to make temperatures humidity IoT project based on Raspberry Pi PicoW using MicroPython. Okay, so this is the response. Great. Here are some steps to help you get started with your IoT project using Raspberry Pi Pico and MicroPython. Set up these, connect your temperature sensor, So this is just the basic code, right? So if you look at this code, I just copied it and put it in my tuning IDE. It worked perfectly well, but it did not create a web interface because I wanted it to create a server on this PicoW where I can make a request from my browser on my phone. So that wasn't there. So again, I said, I want a code for this project with web interface and IP address should be displayed by the PicoW. So again, here's a sample code that you can use. So it generated all of this code. Now, when it generated this code, it created, it wrote the code to get the IP address for my PicoW, but it did not write the address to display it, okay? So because I needed it to display, so I can copy it and put it into my, so I had to respond by saying display IP address of PicoW to tuning IDE. So it went again, did something which was a bit different from the first one. Again, it modified, it didn't show me the web interface. So I said, I want a code for this project with web interface and the IP address should be displayed by PicoW. So again, it came up with this particular code. So doing that, so again, it didn't print out the code. So I had to modify the code to print out the IP address, temperature, and detail. So yeah, again, it did that. Then there was an error. It didn't. So in my code, it used a module called time, but it didn't import it. Okay. Again, these are things that you need to be familiar with Python. Otherwise, you may not know what's happening. Okay. So it said I put the error. I just copied the error from my tuning IDE and put here. So again, it apologized. Sorry, there's a mistake in the previous page. The time module is not imported, so you have to import it and all of that. So after the going forth and back with ChatGPT, then finally it gave me the code which I wanted, which was working. So again, it used a different server module, that is the HTTP, which was not available on my PQW. So I reported the error there. Then before it finally changed back to socket, module was on the MicroPython on my Raspberry Pi PQW. So eventually I got the whole thing working. Okay. So when I copied this code, I just pasted it in my Tony ID, just like you saw. Then it gave me the IP address. Then it told me what was happening there. So later on, I now asked it, how do I connect DHT11 to PQW? I just wanted to see its response. So it gave me the response. So here is the code working. So if you look at my screen, if I enlarge this, so you can see temperature and humidity reading shown on the on my browser. So if I take this IP address given on my PQW is running. So maybe if I show it to you here, for you guys, if you can see it, somewhere here, it's running. So again, this is just based on request. Create a request, then it will respond. So anytime you want to see the value, you have to refresh your browser to get a request. So this is the current value. Okay. So you can ask it to modify the code or write an application to keep requesting for the data every 5 or every 2 minutes or every 3 minutes and things like that. So it's up to you how you want to go about it. So this is how ChatGPT can assist you. So this is for a wireless local area network, right? So if you want to do a wireless area, wide area network, that is, you want to access your data from your Raspberry Pi Pico from anywhere. It could be in Malaysia, it could be in UK. So you need to use any of the IoT platforms that are available there. Okay, so example is TeamSpeak. TeamSpeak is one of the IoT platforms that is available out there. So I just went to my ChatGPT to say I want to make temperature and humidity IoT project based on Raspberry Pi PicoW and view data on TeamSpeak. So in this case, it came up with a code for how that works. So what it did was just create a code that allows you to enter your API key of your TeamSpeak. So again, you need to know how the TeamSpeaks work. So I've used the TeamSpeak before, so it's very easy. You just go in, you need to sign up, or you sign up or register. Once you do that, you check my channels. So I have a channel there. So I didn't implement this on my Tony ID because time will not permit me to discuss all of that, but I'll just show you what is happening. So this is a channel which I've created, IoT. So in case you want to go and do yours later on. So you can always have your API keys. Okay, so API keys, yeah. So this is where I use the Raspberry Pi Pico to send data or to monitor the soil. One is to monitor the temperature, one is to monitor humidity, and one is to monitor the soil moisture sensor. Again, if you want to add soil moisture sensor to it, you can always add it to what parameters you want ChatGPT to develop the codes for you for. So once you do that, you need to create. So I think I have a tutorial on YouTube on how to do this with your Raspberry Pi PicoW. So I will share the links with you guys later on if you want to go and explore. So this is your API keys. So you just need to come here, get your API keys, this key. So if you want to write, there are two types of key, write key and read key. So in this case, your your Raspberry Pi PicoW is writing to this IoT platform. So you need to take the write key. So you copy this one, just copy. Then, so you just paste it here where you have this information. So you put it there. Then the fields you want to fill up. So the field 1, field 2. So in this case, if you look at my fields, sorry. So I have field 1, field 2. Just define your field 1, field 2. Just write field 1, field 2. It automatically arrange them according to how you have your your widgets displayed on your IoT Team Speaker platform. So this is just simple explanation. So again, I'll let you to go and explore that. We don't have much time to do this, but maybe if you're interested, maybe in another, I can come up with another tutorial or talk on this to help you use the ChatGPT for a wide area network application for IoT using Python programming. Okay. So before I pass the time back and we get ready for questions, let me just go back to my slides. All right, so having done that, so I pasted the whole code there, got my IP address, then of course I was able to read my temperature values and humidity values. So in summary, first, ChatGPT is a very good assistant, okay, but you need to have basic or fundamental knowledge of what you want it to do. So in case where you have errors or mistakes, you should be able to know what question to ask in ChatGPT, okay? So you need to know the right questions to ask. Then also, one good thing about ChatGPT, it's not perfect. At least the free one I've tested based on my interaction with it and what I've just demonstrated. But it eventually gives you a solution after maybe repeated going forth and back with questions and corrections. I haven't tried the premium one where you have to pay. So maybe those who have access to the premium one, then maybe they have better performance compared to the free one that is available now. So ChatGPT will save you lots of time. Okay. So if you're interested in any our previous recorded webinars, they're all on YouTube, where I spoke about IoT for digital innovations and some of the other webinars leading to what we have today. So again, this particular webinar is going to be recorded and it's going to be uploaded to the YouTube and all our web, our social handles. All right, thank you very much. So I'd like to pass the time back to our moderator, Dr. Nusu.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Elijah. Yes, that was a really, really insightful lecture. Yes, the summary was ChatGPT is a useful tool. However, you need basic knowledge of what you want to ask it for. So quickly, before I throw the floor open to questions, can we just turn our camera on for a photo? So we just, before we open. Dr. Elijah, please, can you stop sharing your screen for a minute?
All right, sure.
Okay, so if we are playing our camera, this is the best time. Okay, yes, okay, so I'll just take the first one. So, 1, 2, go. Okay, then just. Okay, thank you. Yeah, we can go on. So please, if you have questions, please fill the form or the floor is open to ask your questions. You can raise your hand.
So if you have any question for me, you can just unmute yourself, then go ahead with your question. We have just very few minutes left, so maybe we can make that snappy.
Hello, doctor.
Yes. Yes, please go ahead. You can just introduce yourself, then go ahead with your question. Thank you.
My name is Yusuf, PhD student from FABO, UTM.
Oh, great.
My question is, bearing the fact that ChatGPT can be used for divergent discipline, how do we validate our results in Python, bearing in mind that many of us may not have solid background in Python? Thank you. I mean, validating our results.
Okay. That's a very good question. Thanks, Dr. Yusuf. So to answer that question, to validate your result, right? Number one, So again, you need to have an idea of what you are expecting from ChatGPT, actually. Because like I said, for me, I just see it as an assistant, okay? So it's just there to help us to reduce time. So let's say, for example, you are trying to do something in maybe IoT for building environment to monitor your smart building, okay? You don't have knowledge of Python, right? So like I mentioned initially, you just have to take time to understand the basis of Python, because if you don't understand how Python works or even how to run your codes, so those are the things I explained during the webinar. So you need to find out how Python works. So again, ChatGPT can guide you through that process. Then to validate your results, right? So let's say you are doing research now. So a lot of time validation has to do with when you're doing research and all of that. You probably want to check whatever results ChatGPT is able to help you generate with existing work. So if you look at existing work, existing results, you probably have an idea of what they should look like. So by the time you run your codes that have been generated using a ChatGPT, you should be able to, by yourself, check your results with what existing results says. So that's one way to maybe validate some of your work if you use ChatGPT as an assistant. Yeah. So again, the whole idea of ChatGPT is to just help you get things done faster, whether it's correct or not. It waits for you to. So if you look at ChatGPT itself, you need to tick. If you have a tick, or a like tick or a down tick. So if you give it a light tick, it will register that, okay, whatever it has given you is correct. So it saves that to its database and it helps it to retrain itself. So ChatGPT is actually waiting for humans to validate some of those results. So I think the validation has to do with whoever is using the ChatGPT, at least for now.
Thank you, Doc.
You're welcome.
All right, Dr.
Good afternoon,
Haji.
sir.
Doctor. Okay, Dr. Haji, please. Can you on your mic and ask your question quickly? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Elijah.
Good afternoon, Dr.
My name
Haji.
is Dr. How are you, sir?
I'm very fine, thank you.
I'm at ATM. Thank you very much for your help.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for a good presentation. Very good, very educative. I was just wondering if I want, for example, to ask the ChatGPT a more complicated questions. For example, in the same question to create the IoT as what you have done, but I want to add on the question, maybe to select the protocols. For example, I want to use MQTT instead of HTTP to make it a lightweight protocols for IoT. Yeah. How complicated is that? How they return to the GPT if I complicate the question?
Yeah. Okay. That's a very good question. Thanks, Dr. Agi. All right. So
just a moment. I'll just allow Test Link to ask his question. Then you take both of them together as you're rounding up.
All right, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. So, my question is on the expertise of someone who wants to venture into this particular field. Let me introduce myself.
Can you speak louder?
From Summit University. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Taslim. My name is Musila Taslim, and I'm from Summit University of Accra State, Nigeria. Do you hear that, sir?
Okay, continue here. Let's have your question.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. My question is based on someone like me that I want to venture into this particular field, which is IoT, Internet of Things, and I have a very, very small knowledge on Python. But coming to using ChatGPT to generate those codes and all that, there are some things that I wanted to improve on and all that. And I need to understand what ChatGPT actually provided, because it's not everybody that will be able to explain those code. So is there a way for me to use ChatGPT for it to give me the full knowledge, or even train me more on that particular project that I'm working on?
Okay, I will respond very quickly, yeah, because we are running, we just have about two more minutes. Okay, so let me take a question from Dr. Aji first. So yes, it's possible for you to specify what protocol you want to use. So let's say where I put that question, I could say based on Raspberry Pi Pico or based on ESP32, then you can wait for it to generate the code. Then later on, you can say, can you modify the code to use MQTT? Can you modify the code to use socket? Can you modify the code to use CoAP and all of those different protocols? So it's going to respond. Yeah, I've tried that and it worked. Yeah. Then for the second question, Tesla, so let's say you're working on a project, you don't have basic knowledge of this. Again, when you ask it, so maybe you start from little steps to do simple part of the project for you. Then in that simple part of the project, you can ask to explain, you can ask ChatGPT to explain the lines of codes where you don't understand. It will explain to you. I don't know how those guys did it, but it works very well. So it can help you to explain the line of codes bit by bit until you understand what is happening. So ChatGPT is able to do that. So what I would like to do is, because we have just 1 minute left or so, so please, if you have any question, put it in the Google form that is being circulated. There's a link in the chat box. Put your questions there. Then what I will do is I will try and answer some of these questions and put in the recorded video so that you can get answers or response to your questions. Yeah.
Thank you very much, everyone. We'll be signing off, and we'll see you this time around this time next month. God bless you all for joining.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.